So earlier, I painted this picture for you, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it, just so we can jump into the juicy, meaty part of the conversation. The Canes were not where I expected in a ranking that ESPN put out of net goals above replacement added or lost this postseason. And basically what that means, goals above replacement, it's like WAR, wins above replacement from other sports. It's an analytic to judge how effective a player was. And I expected the Canes to be near the top of the league in biggest improvement there. But it turns out they were near the bottom of the league. So they have lost, players leaving their roster this offseason, 25.2 goals above replacement. They have gained or added 18.8. The 18.8, the positive that they've added, largely comes from Nikolai Ehlers and Keandre Miller, their two big, flashy, long-term deal additions. The 25.2 they lost almost exclusively comes from Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov. Brent Burns, 13 goals above replacement, credited for this past year. Orlov, 9.3. And suddenly you see maybe why other teams paid them more than I expected them to get paid. Colorado and San Jose. That does lead to a question, right? And it's just a question, not an answer. Okay, so this is not me saying something is happening, but you have to ask it when you see that kind of number. By the way, I'm not sure if I said it in this segment. They were 25th in the NHL. So they had actually lost 6.3 goals above replacement based on their signings and departures this offseason. Only 7 teams lost more. Everybody else lost less or gained. There is a human element that analytics will never get. There is a human element that goals above replacement will never understand. And on top of that, there is a projection element that goals above replacement, which is a past statistic, will never understand. I often say, actually, let's break this down to 2 spots. There's Burns and there's Orlov, okay? Because I think moving on from them was smart in both instances, but for different reasons. One, Burns, I always say it's better to move on from a player 1 year too early rather than 1 year too late. And once you start counting your age with a 4 in front of it instead of a 3, you start to get to the point where you're flirting with it, right? You don't want to pay the guy 1 year past his best if used by date. And I know Brent Burns is an unbelievable physical specimen, and he's in unbelievable condition, and he wins all of the conditioning things. But Father Time is undefeated is a saying for a reason. So maybe he'll be great for Colorado this year. Maybe he'll be a 13 goals above replacement player for Colorado this year. I can almost guarantee he'll be great on the penalty kill for Colorado this year because that's what he does. And he's done it for a long time. But maybe this is the year he looks 40-something. Right? The 13 goals above replacement that he was credited with last year that goes into this equation that makes Carolina look like they lost so much is all in the past. Everybody is 1 year older when they step on the ice next year. And also, don't forget who Burns skated with. I've been on skates like 30 times in my life. You put me next to Jacob Slavin, they're going to be like, he's not as bad as you thought he was.
The numbers will look real good.
I mean, he's very rarely near the puck and almost never possesses it. But somehow he's a positive plus minus.
When he's on the ice, somehow the other team's just not scoring. I don't know what it is.
I'm joking, but only kind of. Right? Playing with Jacob Slavin makes your numbers look a lot better when you take into account just success on the ice. Like when you are on the ice, it looks better. It just does. All right? So Burns, I think it was the right move to move on, but it's mostly a projection thing, and it's mostly a credit to Slavin. Orlov is different. Do we have the audio from Orlov? Orlov spoke to the San Jose media for the first time, right? He signed a deal, $6.5 million per year, which is $2 or $3 million more than I thought he was going to sign for. But credit to him. Get your money. And he was, I would say, not the nostalgic, positive reminiscer of his time in Carolina that Brent Burns was. Brent Burns talks about Carolina and Rod Brind'amour as if it was like, high school, right? Like it was the best time. Oh, my buddies. Oh, it was great. Orlov was not that, and we have some audio for you from those kind of introductory comments with the Sharks. Here's Orlov.
Far away, I used to always play in Eastern Conference, and right now it's moved to Western. It's different, and we're actually pretty excited. I know it's kind of rebuilt, but you got to have a lot of good young players, and obviously for me, I just want to change a little bit, and especially like last 2 years, it wasn't easy for me mentally, so I kind of just tried to move far away, and with new team, with new basically life for me, lifestyle, more travel, and it just it's gonna be interesting, and I actually pretty excited for that.
I'll give you just the things that stood out to me. The last 2 years were not easy for him. He basically wanted to move as far away from Carolina as you could. Ends up in San Jose. I think there's a little resentment there that I was catching. I don't know if you guys were picking up on it the same way I was. And that's the human element. Maybe Orlov has way more in the tank than I think he does. Maybe, we're all blinded by, or that's not the right term, tunnel visioned to a few turnovers and a few bad games, one particular in the postseason that I think jumps out to a lot of us. There's these negatives that maybe they're glaring, right? And they're shining their light of negativity in our eyes and blocking us from all the good he did. Maybe. But also maybe his time in Carolina ran its course. And maybe a defenseman who 2 off seasons ago, not this one, not the last one, the previous, when he signed with Carolina, he was one of the big fish in the free agency class. He was the kind of the big fish defenseman. And when he chose Carolina, right, you had one of the big fish in the free agency class on the blue line going to a team that is perennially near the top in fewest goals allowed. It felt like a joining of forces that was going to lead to unbelievable new heights, and it just never got there. And 2 years later, he's still standing there with his palms up going like, what happened? This was supposed to be the Marvel movie. I was supposed to be a new superhero, and it didn't happen. Now, Orlov will have a heavy shot until he hangs up his skates. And matter of fact, maybe even after that. You ever see like Chris Mullin just pick up a basketball and knock down like 8 threes in a row? Like Orlov, if he ever just walks through a rink and is like, hey, you know what? Give me a stick. He'll be able to fire a hammer from distance. So he'll have his moments in San Jose. And also probably, won't have as many other guys that are, taking up production. So there's more usage available in San Jose. And he'll get to be a veteran amongst some really talented young guys. And maybe that'll rejuvenate him. Maybe. But you won't convince me that his time in Carolina didn't run its course. Sometimes it's just time to go. And then, yes, those negatives are still popping up in my brain. Those turnovers. That game where you gave up all the goals in the postseason. Like that's still standing there. So I don't think, even if they play great, even if Burns is still great on the PK, and even if Orlov, gets power play opportunities and scores some goals, even if all that happens, you will not hear me lamenting that they left. Especially when you think about who's replacing him. Sometimes you just got to make way for somebody who's more talented.
I mean, surely when he came in, he didn't think he would be playing like top pairing over Jacob Slavin. Surely not. I understand that they brought him in as the highest paid defenseman on the team, but
there's no way. And even if he did when he came in, there were like 4 practices in, he had to go, oh, actually, no, it's cool. Like if he didn't like playing with Jalen Chatfield, then then get him out, right? Jalen Chatfield is I think one of the more fun guys. Again, without any skating history, he looks like one of the more fun guys to skate with on a defensive pairing because he has speed to cover you in a lot of ways, and he's pretty unselfish. Now, you look towards who's going to be the new blue liners in their spot. It's Alexander Nikishin and Keontre Miller. You never regret making room for those guys on the blue line. You don't. You don't. Alexander Nikishin had to have a spot. Somebody's got to go.
I think his inclusion this year, that might be something that kind of threw off that ESPN rating, because maybe they just weren't able to calculate the potential impact of a guy coming in who hasn't played in the NHL really yet, other than a couple postseason games. Obviously, we know, having watched his
grainy
stats and his
KHL
tape
footage.
Yeah, so obviously we know that we expect him to come in and be a pretty big difference maker and hopefully play even above the level of a Orlov or a Burns. But I'm thinking maybe their model just wasn't able to account for that.
Yes, I mean, that's, quite frankly, it's not maybe. They couldn't, because it was all based on NHL plus minus, or NHL, goals above replacement. But every team, you would think, has somebody. Yeah, actually, I shouldn't say every team. A good amount of teams have somebody in their system that is being called up, or a draft pick that they're excited about. None of those teams got credit for that. Some teams have absolutely nothing in their farm system, but that's their problem, not ours. And then the last point I'll make is, even if, like that point that Max just made didn't exist, even if Nikishin wasn't there, and even if Brent Burns was 37 instead of in his 40s, and even if Orlov didn't say that these last 2 years were tough for him and he had to get as far away as he could, even if none of that happened, I still think I'd be okay with these moves, because you can only run it back so many times before you're going to lose your enthusiasm. I'm not saying anybody's going to not love hockey or not want to win the cup, but there are years where you bring everybody back and you go, nobody's leaving and we're going to keep the squad together. If you do that too many times and you keep falling short, it's like, what are we doing here? Right? What something different. You got to try something. You got to take a risk somewhere. Because the dirty little secret about something like the Alexander Nikishin situation is maybe it doesn't work. I've seen in every sport can't miss prospects miss. And who knows why, right? Maybe just playing in another country, the lifestyle, who knows? Maybe it doesn't work. I won't lament them for that either. I'll be sitting there going, it was a chance you had to take because you had seen it with these other guys. You had seen it with them. Now, if you made a bunch more changes up on the forwards, if you made a bunch like a goalie change or something, then maybe I wouldn't be saying you got to do something on the blue line. But for the most part, you add Ehlers, you couple shuffling window dressings with the forwards. Safety, or I almost said safeties. I'm in football season already. Goalies are the same, right? Last line of defense. Goalies are the same. Something had to change. Something had to change. Moving on from the old guys, that's usually a pretty good thing to do.